Hello everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I am your resident fantasy therapist and welcome to my channel. Those of you who are brand new, welcome. Those of you who are returning, welcome back. Always good to see you again. For those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Kat Bowser. I am a licensed therapist, but I am also an author working on my first novel. And on my channel, I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of writing, which is the characters. And the heart of the characters is in their psychology. And so that's what we dig into on my channel. We take a psychological angle and we tackle numerous aspects of writing, from characters to plot to themes and everything that seems to fall in between. So today, I actually have a book review for you guys. This is one I read a while ago. I think it's been a couple of months, but it is one I enjoyed, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it, so I thought I'd bring some attention to it. So today we'll be talking about Augur of Shadows by Jacob Rundle. So what is this book about? This is actually the first book in a series. I believe it is called the Destined series. I don't believe the second book is out as of yet. And in this story, we follow three high school aged students, Henry, Simon, and Etlina. I'm probably saying her name wrong. Etlina. Basically, Henry has begun to get visions of essentially a coming apocalypse. And it's up to him and his two friends to figure out how to avert it, but it turns out to be a lot more complicated than it appears. Now, as with all my reviews, this is no spoilers, so I'm not going to go into detail beyond what the back of the book would tell you regarding plot. That being said, though, let's just jump right into it. So, as with all my reviews, I will give you guys what I liked, what I thought needed improvement, what I thought was very unique, and I will give you guys a psychological realism reading. So first off, what do I like about this story? The author includes a lot of very interesting philosophical ideas and spiritual ideas. It feels like there's a big mix of different religious thoughts, like ancestor spirits, destiny, free will, things like that. And there is also some emphasis on some empath abilities, which I don't see very often, and I rarely see them all together. So that creates a very interesting world. The magic system is, I'm going to say it's not what I would call a hard magic system, but there are definitely some limits to it. We just don't quite know what they are yet, but given it's the first book in a series, I think that's okay. There's enough explanation that I think is sufficient for a first book. I also really enjoy these main characters, particularly Etlina. She's really fun. She's very feisty. She has some strong intelligence about her in various areas, but she's also vulnerable when it makes sense for her to be vulnerable, and that's a good balance that I don't usually see, especially now with female characters, because there's usually such an emphasis on them being strong. And she is strong, but she's also vulnerable where it makes sense for her to be. Simon, I think his name has an accent to it, so I'm probably mispronouncing it, but he is also a lot of fun because there is a lot to his past that we figure out throughout the book, and we learn about like where he came from, where his family has knowledge of these things that are going on, and it's not given to you all in an info dump, which I appreciate. Instead, it's interwoven throughout the chapters, which I like. Henry is still fun. I'd say of the three main characters, he's probably the one I was least interested in, but I was still interested in him. I was still wanting to know about his goals and his dealing with this situation. He's the one that's suddenly getting all these visions, and he reacts to them fairly well. And by that I mean fairly realistically. He doesn't just accept off the top of his head, oh, I'm getting visions now. Okay. He doesn't just run with it. He has an actual reaction of, wait, this isn't supposed to happen. What's going on? I don't like this. Things like that. And I appreciate that. Um, the range of the world is interesting as well. We get to go to a couple of different settings, a couple of different places. The writer is very good at doing descriptions of different settings. They really kind of not over explain, but they give you enough that it really creates a very vivid picture. For example, Simon has an accent, and they don't write out his accent, which I appreciate, but they do throw in enough words that you kind of get the idea of how he talks, and so that paints a clearer picture. So overall, those were the things I really enjoyed about this book. What are the things I think needed work? The pacing. The pacing is very hit and miss. The beginning dragged on a little longer than I normally was comfortable with, but the premise was so interesting I stuck with it. Um, and then it jumps around. Like sometimes the pacing feels way too slow and you kind of want them to get to the point already, but in other areas it goes way too fast and they are suddenly reacting to something and then they move on to the next thing, and when it probably would have benefited them to stick around and process it a little more. uh there were, let's see, there were a couple of scenes where just the wording was kind of choppy, and I'm not going to say it didn't make it unreadable, but it did kind of take me out of it a little bit. Is the author does a lot more telling than he does showing. And he's very good at showing. When he does choose to use the showing techniques, it's done very well, and it really puts you in the moment and makes you think and makes you feel, and it's great. But they use telling way too much in this book, especially when it is, like, for example, an action scene. Action scenes are not easy to do, but while there's room for some telling in an action scene, that was almost all there was, and I don't think that works well in this instance. Now, there may be instances where it does, but I just don't think this was one of them. And like I said, it's not that the author doesn't know how to show. He's done it, and he does it very well throughout the rest of the book. But for some reason, especially during the action scenes or in very intensive emotional scenes, he switches to telling more than showing. And I really think that was a detriment. Um, and then the other main negative I will actually address in the psychological rating. So we'll get that later. Apparently, talking is not high on my list of priorities today. So the third part, what did I think was unique regarding this book? Kind of like what I said, the premise is very interesting. I can't go into great detail about it because, like I said, I promised you guys no spoilers. I'm going to stick to that. But there are some very interesting spiritual and psychological ideas in here, and they work off each other fairly well, and it's pretty obvious the author put a lot of research into what he was looking up and what he was referencing, and it's all done very respectfully. So I give major props to that. There is a homosexual relationship in here, and I think it was done very well. It kind of suffers a little bit from the pacing issue, but it's believable. It still falls within what I would consider the believable category, and I think they're cute. They're cute. I like how they interact with each other. I like how it developed. It didn't just start off and then by chapter 2, boom, they're together. It took its time, and it took its time to let them kind of ponder it a little bit. So I thought that was well done. Regarding my psychological rating, so I rate on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being absolutely nothing's wrong, and 1 being it's almost damaging. I would put this one at a 3 out of 5. Reason being, there are some instances where events happen that would be traumatic to almost everybody, and the characters just recover too darn fast. They jump to the next scene, and while adrenaline will make you essentially deal with something in the moment and it won't hit you till later, it does eventually hit you. And I was kind of waiting for that to happen, but it never really did. And I rank it a 3 because I don't think it's damaging. I don't think it's, saying that nobody has trauma or anything like that. But the pacing really needed help with those specific instances, in my opinion. Okay, so yeah, three out of 5 for psychological realism, which I would say is about average. Doesn't, like I said, means there's nothing harmful in it. Just means there could have been a little more work put into it, and I think that's fair for this novel. Overall, how would I rank this book? Probably, I'd say a 3.7 because it's not quite a 4, but it's better than a 3. The 5-star rating doesn't always apply very well. But would I recommend this book? Yes. I still think you should read it at least once. And I am interested in seeing where it goes. I probably won't reread this one a lot because of the detriments I've mentioned, the things that I think could use work. However, the author definitely has promise, and I want to see what they do with it. I want to see what their future books look like and how they improve. Because, like I said, the most important part of the book, in my opinion, is the characters, and I think he gets those right. So I can tend to overlook the other things, and I still think you guys should check this out. I still recommend it, especially if you have a thing for urban fantasy. And I will keep an eye out for when the rest of this series comes out because I want to see what happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you give this book a shot. And as always, if you guys have suggestions or comments, leave them below. You can also follow me on social media, and I will look forward to seeing you guys next time.